that, as you can see, is very different. The centre S's that we're looking at the moment, at the end of the start-finish straight, where you see the pit lane actually joining that, or the pit exit, joining on the exit of the second corner. And there it looks like we've got Guillaume Hesno just coming out. I'm having to make do at the moment because basically I'm having stop motion basically at my end, but Hesno is coming out there. We can certainly tell it's his car, the 68 car, coming out to try and post a time in his qualifying. Stopped at the end of the pits there, and the way that the camera did zoom in on him briefly, I got there, that it looks as though he has actually stopped there. I'm not sure how much longer we've got in his qualifying session. There we go, 9 minutes 25 gone already, so literally we're down to the last 35 seconds. And I know that we got the time at the bottom there. Patrick Hathaway, the 34 car, he's trying desperately to improve his time. It looks like from the green that he's got in the first sector, he managed to improve it. But sector 2, he's down on his best time, as assuming that is correct. What I'm seeing on my screen here is that we're not getting Hesno rejoining the circuit. He's just stopped at the end of the pit lane. But there is Patrick Hathaway. Here we go. He is heading his way down the last straight towards the tight chicane and the wall of champions. We're going to see him do the right left. Is he going to do it? No. He decided that was the end of that one. He knew that he was down. And as the time's running out, it looks like Connor Mills. He says that he's used to turning left and right at the same time. And at the moment, it looks as though he's probably got himself onto that pole position. And Aaron Smith in second place in the number 70 car at the moment. Brian Crowell's 48. And it looks like I'm basically getting them all lining up on the grid, heading down the straight there. I'm not sure if that's what you guys are seeing at your end. So it looks like we're counting down towards the race. Connor Mills, pole position. Aaron Smith alongside him in the yellow number 70 car. Brian Crowell's 48 in the US liveried car in third place, with Mikey Doble, the title sponsor here, number 22 alongside him. He's had a great job there getting himself up on that second row. Guillaume Hesno, number 68 in fifth place, with James Harvey in the student motorsport car alongside him. Patrick Hathaway did a great job there in the other student motorsport car in 34th. In the 34 car in 7th place. Jonathan Hill alongside him in the Toyota in 8th place as the pace car moves away to take them on the green flag lap. Justin Nair in 9th place with Jeff Hooper alongside him. George Tolsma in 11th with Billy Fletcher in 12th. Aaron Cook, another good job in the 96 car, with Sedgwick down in, well, they're just sort of chopping and changing slightly as they pull away, so I wasn't sure whether he's in 13th or 14th there. And Jason Glenn in the 55 car in 15th. Does that mean that, I'm not sure whether we're missing a few off the back of this then, that have decided that this doesn't sit too prettily with them, or whether there may be some others on the next screen. But we make our way round for the warm-up lap. It's an 18-lap race, which makes it just under 50 miles the total of this race, because each lap is 2.71. Not really expecting anybody to take any pit stops unless there's a mid-race caution. Not really any great huge difference, the tyres, until possibly lap 15 to 20 of an 18-lap race. So in other words, hence you see the likelihood is we're not likely to get an issue with this one, with a bit of luck for them all. Round the second bend of the centre S's, and they now disappear off into the to the park. Beautiful circuit. Oh, and that looks like Hathaway's even on the warm-up flap. This, we talked earlier about the fact that these things are really difficult to steer around this circuit, especially without getting any penalties. But you saw that he just lost it as he went through turn 3, which is a very tight right-hander. As we know, if anybody watches F1, I think I'm pretty sure that is where Sebastian Vettel went straight on and then took out, was it Lewis Hamilton that he took out? I can't remember now, but it certainly didn't go according to plan for him in that race, and it didn't go according to plan for Hathaway. But hopefully he's going to be able to get back up and take his place. At the moment he's down in 14th, so maybe he won't be able to. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But making their way round the hairpin, the tight hairpin, Le Pingle, as one description of that corner is. And along the long straight now, just a beautiful parkland here, and we're going to then do the right-left chicane past the wall of champions. Are we going to lose Connor Mills into the wall? We'll have to wait and see. He's going to hope not, especially with his pole position. The champion, he's going to want to stay well clear of the wall of champions this time round. It's going to be a big challenge for him to do that. So, lap 2, and Mikey Doble runs wide there. And James Harvey was diving up the inside. Again, apologies, I'm just getting this sort of FC in every couple of seconds at my end. But look how difficult it is as they're going through turns 3 and 4. And Mikey Doble and Alex Sedgwick, both of them in the Doble motorcycle cars, just behind Billy Fletcher, the 88 car, putting pressure on James Harvey. And that James Harvey sat in 5th place, so it's really... Is he the cork in the bottle as it stands at the moment? Would possibly, some would argue that at the minute, but Billy Fletcher's trying to find a way to get past the 88 car, looking one way, looking the next. Aaron Cook there in the Vertex cars just behind these guys as well. And the 2 identical liveried Doble motorcycles car, they want to make a move, but they can't really take each other out. Round the hairpin, you saw Connor Mills has actually got a reasonable lead there in the number 1 car, with the yellow number 70 dropped back a little bit. Crowell's in 3rd, Guillaume Hesno in a good 4th position, but it's really all about this battle for 5th back. The student motorsport car of James Harvey, after his frustrations in the Daytona race earlier, he's going to be desperate to make amends here, and he's had to let himself calm down. What a great fight a little bit further back. That's Justin Nyer at the back of this 4-car train. So Jeff Hooper, Jonathan Hill, Jason Glenn in the 55 black and blue. In fact, he's just fallen slightly behind the Jonathan Hill car. And there we've got the recovering Patrick Hathaway. Apologies, I think that I got it wrong, that wasn't the warm-up lap that I was looking at that he went off. It was already under race conditions, but look at this. And there we go, Jason Glenn up the inside of Jonathan Hill. Jonathan Hill is now a sitting duck to the 77 car of Justin Nyer. And all that, we just suddenly saw the tail end of it. Looked as though Glenn just started pirouetting round there in front of everyone. As we look back at this gaggle here, who have we lost off the back of this? Aaron Cook actually has disappeared back a little bit. And we've now got the challenge by Alex Sedgwick up at the inside of his teammate, the Doble motorcycle cars. Goodness me, don't take each other out. You don't want to do that. Sedgwick powers round the outside, and that's really compromised Mikey Doble there. But he's managed to just slot that permanently back in front of Aaron Cook, the 96 car. What a debut evening he's having there in that Vertex livery car. And you see the replay there. It was a big wobble from Mikey Doble, but he was desperate to close that door and make sure that there was no challenge coming all the way through from the 96 car of Aaron Cook down to the right-hander. And it looks to me, now that Sedgwick's made that move, is he managing to get a little bit of daylight over his teammate? So that was one of the corks in the bottle for him at the moment, but he now he's got Billy Fletcher and James Harvey. Actually, James Harvey's managed to get some daylight between him already, and he's going to be pleased about that one. Connor Mills, our leader, just flirting with the wall of champions there by the looks of it, but he's actually got himself a reasonable lead as it stands at the moment. He'll be pleased about that one as he tries desperately to pull away from Aaron Smith, the number 70 car. Remember, he didn't have a fun time at Daytona, did he? In the yellow number 70, Guillaume Hesno there in 4th. Neither did he. He's a long way back from Brian Krause, who's in no man's land. If anything, actually, do you know what? He's falling back into the clutches of James Harvey, and if he's in his clutches, he's in the rest of the gang behind him that taking him through. That looked a lot neater through the chicane there, turns 3 and 4, didn't it? Now the long, never-ending turn number 5. Back on the power, throw the anchors out the back, the tight left-hander where Jenson Button did a great move there to take the lead in that rain-soaked Canadian Grand Prix all those years ago. Oh, and Billy Fletcher's just been spun round there. Well, they didn't see the start of it. I'm not sure whether he was tapped round by Alex Sedgwick or whether it was all on his own. We're looking at a replay. There's Nyer. Nyer's losing it as well further back, so he's had a moment there into the wall, but we're not sure what happened to Billy Fletcher, whether Alex Sedgwick, here we go. Sedgwick is now trying to find a way through. Not sure, you know. I think there was still a little bit of daylight between all of them there. I think that Billy Fletcher had lost it on the first part of that chicane, turn number 6, if you will, and trying desperately to get the power down come turn number 7. It wasn't happening for him. Or was that turn 8 and 9? Possibly 8 and 9, sorry. But he's now trying desperately to get himself back up this field. He's down in 13th behind Jonathan Hill, the 84 car now. And he's got all that work to do. He was doing a great job in that 5th place. But James Harvey is now clear of him, taking Mikey Doble, actually got past Alex Sedgwick and all that shenanigans as well. But wow, it's all happening here, and we're only just lap 5 as well on this, what did I say, it was 18-lap race. And or I think that we've got there, or an hour, whichever comes first. Well, hopefully it would actually be the level, the number of laps. But Billy Fletcher's starting to make amends up the inside there of Jonathan Hill as they got through to the Senna S's, as it's affectionately known these days. And he's now trying to get onto the back of the lovely pink, yellow and white livery car of Patrick Hathaway, number 34, the second of the student motorsport cars. Oh, and just ahead of him was the 79 car of Jeff Hooper, just hung his tail out there as he went through the tight right-left. But somehow he's just managed to keep the circuit completely filled up by him as it stands at the moment. So great job by him there. But, oh, and look at that, trying to get the power on there was Patrick Hathaway. That's going to allow Billy Fletcher to make the move in the 88 car. Through he goes, so up into, what does that put him in? 11th place now. He's managed to make that move out. He's had to get rid of that red mist just to try and calm himself down after, I'm not sure whether he got on the power too much or whether there was just a little bit of contact by the number 9 car of Alex Sedgwick. Possibly find out a little bit later, maybe a little bit of both, because Billy Fletcher had got himself a little bit wild. Talking of wild, look at that, the number 79 car of Jeff Hooper spun that all the way round on that tight hairpin there. Just got the power down a bit too soon. You see how easy it is. They've just really got to caress the throttle. Sound like a sitcom there. It's like making love to a beautiful woman. The car salesman, look it up. But they've really got to just caress the throttle as they're coming out of these points. A real almighty challenge for them. Big bouncing over the curves by Billy Fletcher there towards the wall of champions, but he keeps it out of it. A good job there, and still manages to pull away from Patrick Hathaway. 10th place now. His next target is going to be the black and blue 55 car of Jason Glenn. You see he's got quite a gap. He's got the whole of the Senna S's to go before he's onto the back of Jason Glenn. But now he's got some daylight. Billy could probably start banging in a few cracking laps here. Oh, and again, Patrick Hathaway just lighting up the rears there as he tried to feed the power in. Interestingly, that was as they were feeding their way down to turn 3, I think, there. And it just didn't quite work. Four-wheel drift in there from Billy Fletcher. Beautiful sight there. I tell you what, these must be amazing to see around this circuit. Just such a picturesque circuit in its own right, but these absolute monsters coming around here must be so good. There is your race leader that doesn't have the same level of lead that we saw earlier, does he? Aaron Smith, the number 70 car, is right with him in second place. Brian Crowell's in third. Guillaume Hesno, 68, in fourth place. Then it's this battle between the teammates, and Mikey Doble, 22, still just about has the nod, but very different lines into, through and out of the hairpin there. That kind of didn't really work for either of them, but equally you could say didn't compromise excessively either of them. So at the moment they've managed to just keep that one going, keeping themselves line astern, 5th and 6th place as it stands at the moment. This kind of does lead well for the Doble challenge that we've got, with the fact that they're going to be finishing ahead of the pro driver, which is just Alex Sedgwick, with Ben Kriener's sad demise before we even started with the problem with the wheel. Lap time wise, it looks like fairly similar lap times, 1:44.2s for the 5th, 6th and 7th place, 4th, 5th and 6th place cars at the moment. But Alex Sedgwick determined to try and find a way past his teammate. You see how they can sort of feed their way through these winding parts of the circuit. But it's really the coming out that looks more of a challenge than slowing it down from what we've seen so far, as they just want to get their lead foot down on the throttle, and it's not the best way to do it. Guillaume Hesno that was not a massive gap I think it was an optical illusion actually as they were going through a chicane. George Tolsma, number 25, has gone into the pits. I don't know whether that means he made a little bit of contact and he's in with an issue, because we're only 7 laps in and the probability is we can go the whole way through. Here's George Tolsma, number 25. Great with the helicam. Look at the waterways all around this circuit. And it was a big moment there as he went to try and turn right and it just turned a little bit too soon. He's still in the pits, hopefully managing to get that sorted as we ride on with 68 Guillaume Hesno, sat there in 4th place at the moment. What's that? It's about 2.25 to 2.5 seconds. You saw it there, the Brian Crowell's car, number 48, being chased down by the pair of blue and white cars, the Doble motorcycles cars, that are trying to reel him in at the moment and possibly managing to do it, because that gap is down to less than 2.5 seconds. So interestingly, it looks at the moment like we're getting some kind of concertina effect. The front two look mighty close as well. Aaron Smith, sorry, I've missed it. Aaron Smith has taken the lead. I was watching so much going on here that the number 70 car has taken the lead ahead of Connor Mills and is now already stretching it. So Connor Mills had quite a comfortable lead for a good chunk of time there, but now he's 3/4 of a second back from Aaron Smith. So all the changes happened there. I don't know whether it was a mistake or not, but I had noticed that Aaron was closing in on him, but not necessarily expecting it to go to that level. And here's Guillaume Hesno going right towards the Wall of Champions. Goodness me. I think he's left some paintwork on that wall, hasn't he, this time? It'll just be all orange, black, red and white, all down the side of the Champions wall. But, what a great shot this is, Ollie. He was a bit further away there than it looked, wasn't he? But, wow, just amazing. And look how that has now put him firmly into the clutches of the chasing cars. There's the lead too. Aaron Smith has now got himself over a second clear. So if we were having the cheat effects of the of F1 with the DRS or anything like that, he's managed to break that 1 second mode at the moment. So Connor Mills in the silver and purple car needs to try and get back onto terms with him as quickly as possible. But as he came out of the hairpin, it looked as though the car was not necessarily handling as well as it was previously. And look at that. I think that there was a sort of drag along the Wall of Champions there by Aaron Smith, and that has dropped him down to only just over half a second, and he's now fishtailing it under the brakes all the way into the center S's. Connor Mills is right back with him again. That's how easy it is. That's how quickly it can change. That Connor Mills, the number 1 car, last year's champion, he has now got himself back onto terms with the number 70, the American driver, Aaron Smith, who's determined to make amends from a Daytona to forget for him. And it's the other way round to some extent for Connor Mills. He had the qualifying to forget, but managed to move his way up through the order relatively nicely. Into the pits has gone Aaron Cook. That's a shame. The 96 car, one of my favourite liveries, the blue and yellow car, he's into the pits. So again, I can only assume that he's made contact somewhere. George Tolsma is out of the race, so whatever damage was too much to fix. Let's hope that's not the same for Aaron Cook and we can get that 96 4 car back out again. That would be good. Blink in, blink out, just momentarily there. And just as I was about to say, it looked like Aaron Smith had gone a bit hot into that chicane there, and certainly it looked as though Connor Mills saw that as well and was trying to close in on him. There's this Jeff Hill in 12th position at the moment, trying to close in on Jeff Hooper. Struth, that looked like a real struggle to not only get that one stopped, but turned, and then he lights it back up again. Oh no, as he gets the power down, it just spins that rear end around. That's how easy it is to lose. Good news, Aaron Cook is back out onto the circuit. So he went into the pits, but he's back out again. Jonathan Hill has gone into the pits. We just saw him have that spin, so he's gone back in to get any damage repaired. Look at this, Connor Mills is on an absolute mission. I think he preferred the clear circuit ahead of him earlier, where he was leading all those laps, as just that right-hand kip before we now get onto the brakes for the left-hander of the first part of the center S's. Very different lines there. Who's going to come out of this best? I'll have to wait and see for a second. And it is still, look at, he's trying to get that power down, and I think he just left the lines all the way along the circuit there, but he had it completely under control. Not so much there. Is he going to make contact with the wall on the exit? I think he may have just given that little love tap on the exit there, and that's lost him all that time that he'd made up. Suddenly, look at that. We're over 1.25 seconds is the gap between Aaron Smith and Connor Mills. Just needs to calm it down again, because he's seen that he can reel him back in again, but at the moment he's going ragged into every corner. If he can just get that cool down, he's not going to lose too much contact with Aaron Smith. Keep it within the realms. Remember, it was over a second earlier and he crawled it back in, so he can do it again. Brian Krause, yeah, you see Brian Krause in the background. He's kind of loitering with intent, isn't he? So sat there in third place at the moment. I think he wants to go higher. Mikey Doble's up into fourth place. He's managed to get ahead of Guillaume Hesno. In fact, Cedric is still sat behind Hesno, but 0.144 was the gap I saw then. So that would be a good fight to watch. Cedric trying to get himself up ahead of Guillaume Hesno fairly soon. I think that's going to be the race to watch at the moment. Mikey Doble's managed to do it, and not only has he got past Guillaume Hesno, the 68 car, but he's managed to scamper off into the distance as well. So Cedric doesn't want to wait too much longer before he gets involved and gets himself past and tries to close back in on his teammate again. Across the line we go, completing lap number 10. Onto lap 11 we go in this 18-lap race. So they're well and truly past the half race distance now. And it's Aaron Smith, number 70, leading. But look at this again. Connor Mills closes, but he just went fractionally too deep there. Hasn't cost himself too much there. Little wag of his nose there, as if he was disgusted with himself. That looked like almost there, didn't it? The wag of his nose. But he's managed to keep himself going. And again, just those couple of parts where he looks wild. Here's the fight that I was talking about. Guillaume Hesno, number 68, under massive pressure from Cedric. Cedric trying to find a way. Now the problem in these cars might be big and heavy to drive through this circuit, but they're also big to try and find a gap past as well. And Cedric looking one way, looking the next. Through the left right-hander. Who's going to be more gentle but effective with the power. Both much of a muchness there. Both doing incredibly well. Jonathan Hill's still in the pit, so I suspect sadly that his car is out after the damage into the wall. And Alex is looking up the inside, late on the brakes into the... Is that the hairpin at the far end? No, it's another one of the chicanes. Apologies, I misread where we were. Didn't quite work, but so close. He was just wrestling that under the brakes all the way into that corner, and he wasn't quite able to do it. So Guillaume Hesno just about holding on to that fifth place at the moment, with Cedric just behind him, just putting that pressure on. The bad news for Cedric, you can see his teammate Mikey Doble just scampering off into the distance in that fourth place. And it's great news for Mikey, because he's not under any pressure. He can just focus forwards. He's about 4.25 seconds behind Brian Krause at the moment. But this is not what Cedric wants to see. That said, knowing Alex, he's probably still sat in his sim with an absolute massive grin on his face, loving every second of this as he bounces over the curb towards the Wall of Champions, but doesn't get anywhere near it. Although saying that means we should say go quicker then, Alex. If you didn't get near the Wall of Champions, you're not going quick enough, mate. Come on. That's not true. That's a non-racer telling him that. But look at this. He's got a good run through the centre S's, but the temptation is to get the noise pedal down a bit too soon and a bit too quickly there. And he just about manages to feather it back off again to not lose any great time. You saw the rear end was trying to come round on him, but kept it well enough under control. And Guillaume Hesno still holding on to that fifth place. If he manages to hold on to this, Guillaume's going to be absolutely exhausted in this heat with this fight that he's having to have with the pro driver Alex Cedric all the way through this Gilles Villeneuve circuit. As they make their way down the long straight at this section into the right-hander any second now. There we go, right, left, turns 8 and 9, then they're back on the power again. He says, hoping that I've interpreted where we are correctly, and we're going to now go past where Kubica had that horrible accident in the Williams F1. Now we go to the really tight right-hand hairpin. And now Cedric's diving up the inside, but it's the title line, you can see it, he just could not get the power down, and the car was just squirreling away like mad. And it just was not possible whatsoever to dive up. And you see the point there. Darned if you do, darned if you don't. He can get himself up the inside, but he just couldn't, with that tighter line, get the power down quick enough, or even enough, full stop. And Guillaume Hesno was managing to just pull away and build up a reasonable gap at the moment. Talking about a reasonable gap, I noticed on the screen there for a second that Connor Mills is now about 2 seconds behind our leader, Aaron Smith. So Aaron doing a great job getting himself through into the lead at the moment. There is the two student motorsport cars running line astern. They are, JP. I know you're watching, mate. That's a lovely sight. You've got both your cars running line astern. James Harvey, their normal driver, and there is the ops director of Patrick Hathaway, jumped behind the wheel this time. 9th and 10th respectively as it stands at the moment. And they are sort of almost, it's photo opportunities, JP, this one, isn't it, for you, mate? And it's so good to see. And student motorsport, something that is a great opportunity to help more and more people get involved in motorsport that we're all here because we love. So great to see them. So, Jonathan Hill did make it back out again. I was worried that he wasn't going to get back out again, but I'm suspecting we're looking at him because, or was that the same moment from earlier? It possibly may have been, but Naya, look at trying to get the brakes on for the hairpin. It goes to show how hard that is. He just could not get it stopped. Good job finding reverse quickly, and off he goes. So yeah, that first one was Jonathan Hill earlier, but Justin Naya in 13th place. He had a moment in the 77 as well. It just goes to show how hard this is. Connor Mills, remember he was our leader for a while. He's about to have a moment by the looks of it. Yep, straight across the grass through one of the chicanes. He needs to be careful because there's Brian Crowles in the USA livery car, going to close in on him at this rate. Connor Mills has been passed, so Crowles has got through. So it was the momentum as a result of that wild moment that Crowles, I was waiting to see that wasn't a back marker when I was just seeing the back of the car. And sure enough, through has gone Brian Crowles up into second place. I wonder whether maybe Connor Mills just went a bit too hot, a bit too soon in this race, and he's just sort of taken the best of his tyres, and he's just not able to do anything anymore. And you saw that he just could not get it stopped for the chicane across the grass, couldn't get the momentum built back up again, and Brian Crowles was able to take full advantage up into second, still wagging his nose. In fact, Mikey Doble, number 22 in the background, we suddenly saw, he's now fancying a bit of a podium here, isn't he? This would be good for where he's the title sponsor, Doble Motorcycles, and trying desperately to get himself up on the podium, and fully deserved. And Connor Mills, the same place where he made the mistake last time. This time it was even deeper across the grass this time, and he just needs to make sure that he hasn't gained any time there. I don't think that Doble was close enough to do anything about it. In fact, looking at the damage on the front of that car, at some point Connor Mills has made contact with concrete as well, because that bodywork is just up at an angle. That could have been the Wall of Champions potentially, but that's where we've seen him go back and forth a little bit. Look at this, trying desperately to get the car stopped in a straight line. No chance. He has to bail out, and across the grass even more so. And it just goes to show how awfully, how hard he just manages to miss the tyres at the end of the Wall of Champions there. Mikey Doble, he can definitely smell this opportunity, can't he now? They're on to lap 15 of this 18-lap race. Sedgwick still trying to find a way past Hesno. Is he about to find that way? It looks like he is, because Hesno just locked up in towards the hairpin. Through goes Sedgwick, the number 9 car. Up he goes. He's been trying desperately to do that for a while. Up into 5th place. And he now needs to try and pull away from Guillaume Hesno, which I think he will, because he was compromised. Another Aaron Cook replay here across the grass. It's getting harder and harder for all of them, isn't it? To get the car stopped and the power back on. There's Billy Fletcher. We saw his moment earlier. He's up into 8th place now. He's done a great job to get himself back up through this field. Jason Glenn, his next target. But you can see that Jason Glenn's not even in sight as it stands at the moment. So Glenn's probably going to be quite relieved about that. Yeah, you can't even see Jason Glenn in the distance. So Billy Fletcher's just basically trying to put in qualifying lap after qualifying lap. Aaron Cook back into the pit lane again. So clearly that car is not handling well at all. We saw him have the grassy excursion a moment ago. And I don't know whether he's possibly been given a drive through. Apologies if any of the other guys are sending messages to me, but obviously I'm focused on the screen now, so sorry guys. I'm probably missing so much from you, because I can hear you in the background, messages pinging through. But Jeff Hooper completely missed that. That was the final one as they came down towards the start finish straight. Just went straight across there. Not the first person to do that, or the last, but kept himself out of the wall. That was the main thing. Sat in 11th place at the moment. Justin Nair is the car that will be behind him. Number 77 again wrestling it round the right-left there of the circuit. Aaron Smith pumping in some good times now, but there's an interesting one. Last lap round is that Doble, I was about to say, is that he's been lapping quicker than Connor Mills. Is he going to make the move now? He's looking to the outside. Surely not there, but then he's going to have the inside line for the right-hand curve of the Senna S's. Now he's got to get the power down, and yes, he's managed to do it. So there we go. Up into third place comes Mikey Doble. Brian Krause in second place probably needs to be wary of that. So the title sponsor was desperate to get himself on the podium. As it stands, he's done it. A fantastic job there. Up into third place by Mikey Doble. Connor Mills, whatever's caused that bodywork damage, I would venture that is what has caused the problem. He's just not had the handling on that car that we saw in the early stages, which is a real shame, because he managed to build himself up quite a nice lead there, and after a great pole position, and he just got the rear end sticking out again. All these fantastic onboard shots, and yet you can still see, even from the side one, how difficult it is. Look at the damage on that front corner there. Wow, I mean, that could well be the Wall of Champions, let's not forget. There's the tyres just brilliant flexing there that we see. Onto the start, the long straight towards the start-finish line after the hairpin, as our leader will be going through to start lap 17 of this 18-lap race very shortly. I think. I'll pause there because I may have got that wrong. I've possibly just given away one lap too many, bouncing over the curves. Goodness me. Yep, so our leader's on to lap 17, penultimate lap now of this 18-lap race. It's almost a shame that it's 18 laps because I'm enjoying this, but Aaron Smith, he's built himself up quite a margin now, hasn't he, over the rest of the field. Second place, 48, Brian Krause. Couldn't even see him in the background there. So now we know what Aaron will be doing, because he's been in this position before where he's just going to temper the pressure that he's putting on himself through this one. He's going to just try and keep it as steady as possible. Aaron Smith, you remember that he won at Zolder a couple of rounds ago, and he got himself a lead like this and just had to take it steady for the rest, and he did a good job. Alex Sedgwick, trying to see into the distance there what sort of gap we got between him and fourth place Connor Mills. That car looked a little bit ragged there, didn't it, as well? The tyres are possibly starting to struggle now. Remember, we were told the tyres don't make a huge difference until the 15 to 20 lap mark. Well, we're smack in the middle of that now, so there's every chance that a few of these are now struggling with their tyres as well. And that looked quite wild moment there for Alex Sedgwick through that section, but he's only got a lap and a half left to go. Guillaume Hesno is far enough back for his liking, so he shouldn't be put under pressure. James Harvey in 9th place with his teammate Patrick Hathaway just behind him in 10th. Jeff Hooper in 11th, and there's Justin Nair, number 77, sat in 12th place as it stands at the moment. Drop of 3 places compared to where he started. But Aaron Smith comes across to start his final lap now, by my reckoning. Please forgive me if I'm wrong, but yeah, we go, white flag. I feel like waving a white flag, goodness me. But no, great job by Aaron. He's going to go one more time. He started on the front row, but not on pole position. He's managed to rise himself up one place. Brian Krause in second, Mikey Doble in a podium position. In fact, look at that. He's not that far from the 48 car of Brian Krause. Surely with 1 lap to go, that's going to be too big an ask, but and he's going to, if his tyres are struggling a little bit now, he doesn't want to throw it away, does he? So he's kind of got an incredible dichotomy now. What does he want to do? And in fact, I think we just saw him go a little bit wild, a little bit wide as he exited that corner in the background there. But Brian Krause just playing it cool like he did at the end of the Daytona to take that victory. What a great night it'll be for him. A win and a second would be an absolute belter of an evening for him. 4th place Connor Mills just trying to hold on to a car that is not handling as he would like. It's 5th Alex Sedgwick, Guillaume Hesno in 6th place, Jason Glenn 7th, 8th Billy Fletcher trying desperately to make up some more places after his moment early in the race. James Harvey and Patrick Hathaway, the teammates, in 9th and 10th. Jeff Hooper in 11th and Justin Nair in 12th place. But here comes your leader, the bright yellow number 70 car. You can see that he's clicked that down a notch or two, hasn't he? Because the Brian Krause car behind him is probably a bit closer than we've seen, so he's just got the one more turn left to go. He's got the Wall of Champions just to give one last kiss for good measure as he comes through in the number 70 car. There he goes, out towards the wall, not even as far as we've seen him do, but he's just on the power, down towards the start-finish straight, celebrating already. An absolutely fantastic victory for Aaron Smith. And there goes Brian Krause to take second place with Mikey Doble so close behind him. Absolutely fabulous job by both of those guys. Connor Mills holds on to finish in fourth place. It probably did feel like that, to be honest with you. Alex Sedgwick in fifth, sixth is Guillaume Hesno, and then the 55 car of Jason Glenn has crossed the line to take seventh. Eighth is the recovering Billy Fletcher, will cross the line very shortly as well. And there is then James Harvey and Patrick Hathaway, line astern for the Student Motorsport cars. A great job for both of those guys. I'm trying to write at the same time as doing this and realised I'm a man and I can't multitask, but awesome job there from these two coming home. Line astern, 9th and 10th. 11th is then going to be Jeff Hooper, just ahead of this one, the 79 car, but Justin Nye is going to finish 77. The last running car, because sadly we lost Aaron Cook, Jonathan Hill and George Tolsma, which is a real shame. But here comes Justin Nye, a bit of damage on the front there, but not too bad. And comes through, and he is going to secure that 12th place. Jeff Hooper has finished 11th. And it's just, what an incredible race is that it looked like, even when they thought they'd settled into a run, they probably hadn't. So it was mighty difficult for them around this track. I think they were sort of chuckling about just how difficult it was going to be. Billy Fletcher was making a comment that he hadn't managed to have any practice on this either, and it was going to be a real challenge for him. And it did indeed prove that way. So absolutely fantastic job there. Great victory from Aaron Smith. I've got a few drivers being dragged in to the interview waiting room, or they may be coming in as well. I think that hopefully that means I should be able to have a chat with them. The first one I see that's actually come in is Mikey Doble. Are you there, Mikey?
I am indeed.
Hello, Mikey. What a fantastic fight through this field, up into third place. We could see you were determined to get on that podium, weren't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I seem to have the pace. I knew I had the pace in qualifying, and I made a mistake on the first lap and got a slowdown penalty. So I had to back off for 2.5 seconds, and then that made me even more determined to come back through the field. So, and then after that, I seemed to manage the tyres better than anyone else, and just from the pace late on in the race, and I was closing in on Brian. Ran out of maybe 2 more laps, I might have had a chance, and Aaron, I could see, he was gone, but I was closing in on him as well. So it's probably my best race of the season. So yeah, it's really good.
It was. I mean, it looked like the biggest challenge that we were spotting from everybody was getting on the power when you exit some of these tight S's. It looked like it was all too tempting to put too much power too soon, and there's no recovery from that, is there?
No, I mean, what seems to happen with these cars is that you put the power down. If you can actually kill the tyres at the beginning of the race, and if you go really far, like loads of power out the corners in the first couple of laps and really spin them up, you can overheat them quite a lot, and you'll suffer late on in the race. Whereas actually, if you can manage them a little bit throughout the race, then they just the life is prolonged on them a lot. But yeah, they're not the easiest cars to drive, especially around this circuit.
No, they look like big boats getting through this, but it's just an amazing sight. But you made it look, if you can get yourself into that sweet spot where you're not sort of braking too heavy heading into the bends that suddenly throws you onto the grass, and you're not too early on the power. If you get into that sweet spot, it looked like it was quite flowing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think patience is the key in these cars. So like if you overdrive the entry, not only do you run a little bit wide and miss the apex, but you often find yourself putting the power down too hard to compensate, and then you get understeer on the way in, and then you lose the car at the rear on the way out. Whereas actually, if you can, not brake early, but just brake on time and not overcharge the entry, and then feed the power on very gently, you can get quite a good run down the straight. And that's the key to in a longer format, running consistent laps.
Yeah. The other one as well we saw is that you sort of suddenly get seduced into making a move up the inside of somebody, but that tight line just doesn't give you the bite that you need to get back out of it, so you lose it to the car that you've just undertook anyway.
Yeah, well, you kind of have to plan it. So if you can actually go up the inside of someone and park the car on the apex so they can't get, as you like to say, the switcheroo. Um, yeah, if you can get up the inside and park the car there so they actually have to back out the throttle as well, and then you can kind of come out the corner as you wish and they won't get the run. Whereas if you charge in up the inside and run a bit wide coming out, then all they've got to do is say, thank you very much, I'll have that back. But no, sometimes it takes a lap or two sitting behind someone, just seeing where they're weak and just planning your attack when they're not expecting it and getting the job done, yeah.
But what was the dynamic there, though, of having your teammate alongside you and someone of Alex Sedgwick's caliber as well? Is that we weren't sure if you were going to take the gloves off or not, but you did.
Well, I saw what happened in front of me, and I thought, well, I've got to pounce on this, and I thought, maybe I won't get many other opportunities to go door handle to door handle with Alex Sedgwick, So I thought I'll take it while milk it for all it's worth,
Absolutely, and then the good news is that Alex got stuck behind Guillaume Hesno, which then meant that you were able to just pull away and not have to fight with him anymore, which is quite a nice way to do it.
Yeah, I think Guillaume made a mistake, and I managed to sort of get by. And then I was watching the gap behind me, and I noticed Alex didn't follow me through, and I thought, well, if he gets past Julian, there's no way he's not going to be able to keep up with me, and he'll be giving me pressure for the rest of the race. But it just allowed me to get a bit of a gap, and then I was able to run my own race and pick them off, one at a time.
Well, it worked. It was great to watch the fight through. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and 8th at Daytona, 3rd then in this one. Not a bad night's work, really.
No, well, I've definitely had worse. I mean, I was a little bit cheesed off with Daytona because I didn't get a very good qualifying, and that's what did it for me. But I was sort of picking my way through a little bit, and I was up to 6th, I think, for the final restart or one of the final restarts, and got clipped by someone in one of the accidents and went to the back, and then managed to get a good run around the outside and get back to 8th, which was sort of damage limitation. But I knew that I felt strong coming into Montreal. I'd done a lot of practice, and I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely brilliant. Loved watching this race around this one. Tell me then, before we got into this, coming to this particular race, were you one of the ones that was on the nervous about what these cars are going to be like around this circuit, or were you particularly looking forward to it?
Well, I was very much looking forward to it, especially as it's our race and we've teamed up for it. But I think Zolder has kind of breaks the ice in terms of difficult to drive. I mean, I think Zolder with those big curbs and I think Zolder is probably even more challenging than this track, to be honest.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting to know.
This track is, I suppose, it is designed to take Formula One. So, although it is quite sharp, the curbs are quite nice. You can ride them, whereas Zolder, you could easily spin the car if you clip the curb at the wrong angle. So I think having learnt a lot at Zolder and the way these cars tick around these slower tracks, it definitely helped me coming into Montreal.
Absolutely brilliant. And as you mentioned, obviously with Doble Motorcycles being the title sponsor of this evening's fantastic entertainment, thank you so much for your involvement. And from what I was reading is that it's a great company that's sort of like gone through the generations of your family.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've always, people that shop, that are customers at our shop very much feel like part of the family because, like my granddad started it 53 years ago.
Wow.
And we've been a Honda main dealership for 45 years. And so then my dad joined it very young as well, and he now runs it along with his brother-in-law. And it's kind of, and I'm working there as well. So, and also very interesting, me and my dad and my granddad have all got exactly the same name. So I'm actually Mike Doble III. so it can get confusing.
Okay, because I knew it was junior, but I'd have been wrong. You're the third. Okay.
Yeah, my dad's junior, really.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That means it's almost perfect that you're racing these NASCARs, because of course that's quite an apt thing, isn't it? The of juniors and thirds and all of that in this as well.
Yeah, well, in real life, in my real race car, I'm normally number 88. So actually having the sort of junior title, well, along with the 88, and as you may notice, my paint scheme on my car kind of reflects a certain someone who used to race NASCAR. So yeah, there's a little bit of a crossover there.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. It's BMW in normal racing, isn't it, for you?
Yeah, BMW Compact Cup.
That's right, yeah, because I've commentated on you in real life as well.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, absolutely. And because I love the BMW races, they're so good, the Compact Cup and all of that sort of stuff. They're such good stuff. Well, listen, Mikey, awesome job. Great fight through the field. It was just provided some fantastic entertainment. And obviously, thank you to Doble Motorcycles as well for great involvement here over the course of this evening.
No worries. I really enjoyed it, and roll on Watkins Glen, I believe, next week.
Yes, that's going to be interesting. How do you think you'll fare there?
I think the racing will be phenomenal at Watkins Glen, because it is a NASCAR road course anyway, and the corners are much more flowing than here. I'm not exactly sure what layout we're on, because there's two layouts, but either or really, they're both very fast tracks, and they suit the NASCAR very well. There's a lot of banking in the corners, so it holds these, what are they, 3,400-pound cars, whatever they call them.
Yeah.
Hot
rod. Well, yeah. Well, I look forward to it, and let's see what you can do at Watkins Glen. Well done, Mikey. Fabulous job.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
So well done. Thanks, Mikey. That was the third place and obviously the title sponsor of this evening's activities. I've now been joined by the two that managed to finish a couple of places ahead. I'm going to jump straight up to the victor from that race, because I see that Aaron's joined us. Aaron, congratulations. What a fantastic victory.
Oh, thank you. It was a pretty fun race.
It looked like it kind of you managed to get a breather at the end. You had to work really hard to take that lead. But once you got it, you just kind of tried to stamp your authority. But you had to do it twice, because Connor did close in on you again at one point, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Going into the hairpin there when he was right behind me was pretty sketchy. I thought he was going to dive it in a lot farther than he did. Yeah, he raced pretty clean. We had a pretty good run there. But unfortunately, he fell back after I got around him for that last time. And he fell back to about fourth from what I saw. I was hoping we'd get the 1-2 for Satellite Revolution Racing. But a 1-4 is pretty good, too.
Yeah, I mean, it looked sadly like the tyres well and truly went off, because it looked an absolute beast to try and control after a while. And I think Mikey was even saying there is that it was a degree of trying to manage your tyres. And was that what you were able to do once you'd built up enough of a buffer, is just manage your tyres?
Oh, yeah, I tried doing it from square one, straight from the start of the race. But there were some points where I really had to dig to keep up with Connor there. And it seemed like he slid his tires a lot more than I did, and was able to outlast him.
What did you find the hardest on this? Because it was enthralling watching it. Is that you're either in one of two camps mainly up and down this field. That either it was a struggle going, applying the brakes into the corner, or it was applying too much power coming out of it. Which did you find the most challenging?
Oh, it was a struggle everywhere, to be honest with you. I mean, getting on the brakes, the back end would want to kick out, and then on the throttle, the back end would want to kick out. There was that one spot on the track, that one sector with the two bridges, and you had that chicane in between with the gravel trap. Yeah. I would always miss that and hit the curbs and land on the ground pretty hard, but we were able to keep it going. Didn't get any off tracks or anything like that, so we were able to survive to the end.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I mean, it did. It looked at times watching you guys out there on this circuit. It was more like watching NASCAR's performing ballet. Like you say, the rear end's just dancing around. I mean, absolutely brilliant job. Which is why I was sort of probably assuming that you were quite glad when you had a bit of daylight between yourself and the pack chasing you, so that you could take a bit of a breather, because it looked like it was probably hard work.
I'd go so far as to say it was a bit harder than Zolder, really.
Really?
Yeah, everyone was much closer this time around. I was surprised we didn't get any lap cars or anything this time. We had a couple at Zolder, but there was less traffic this time.
Yeah, see, that's interesting, because Mikey just said he thought that Zolder was harder than here, but you think it's the other way around.
Yeah, there are a lot of really fast straightaways going into some really slow corners. So I guess that's the difference for me, really.
I like it, though. I mean, what a cracking job there. I mean, you came here after sort of getting a second at Iowa, a win at Zolder, a second at Charlotte Roval. So, it's been looking good. It didn't go well for you in Daytona. Let's deal with the elephant in the room. That did not go well. I need to come and ask you this now that we can. It looked like you had problems with your car at the start of the Daytona race because it just literally just dropped like a stone.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple excuses for that, but the one I'll stick with is that I got shuffled to the outside and just couldn't really make up the difference there. Just went to the back because I knew I'd probably get put in the wall if I was too high up in the corner, so just went to the back and couldn't make it up at the end.
Fair enough. And then, of course, once you were back there, you were involved in everybody else's incidents, weren't you? You become the magnet.
Yeah, looking back at it, I probably could have just stayed back until the last green, white checkered because people were pretty aggressive on the outlaps, on the restarts. But made some mistakes, but it'll be good to use in the future.
Fair enough. It was just I was interested to see whether there'd been a mechanical issue or something. So, but not a good way to round it off. Get the victory here. We now go on to Watkins Glen. How do you think that you'll fare there?
I feel like the field's going to be even closer there than they were tonight. But I feel like I can get the job done again.
Like it. Them's their fighting words, and I like them as well. Well done, Aaron. A fantastic victory. Any last words before we let you go?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Revolution Satellite Racing for putting the car together and stuff like that, and Doble Motorcycles for putting the money up for tonight's races. And I didn't win it, but I certainly appreciate it. But congrats to Brian for taking that home.
Right, okay, so I've probably been having messages in trying to tell me that one, so thank you for giving me that information because I hadn't worked out who that was. But
that's what I think. I mean, if finished first and second, I think that'd be the most probable.
Probably right, yeah, that would make sense. But listen, Aaron, fantastic victory here in Canada. Go and enjoy it, my friend.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. So great victory there from Aaron. And we do have Brian Crowles with us again. We said that we would hopefully get another word with you, Brian. We have. You got yourself a second. What a cracking race.
I mean, the stars kind of aligned today. I've been struggling at this track a whole week to get a long stint together. Putting a one lap together is always easier than putting a stint together. So I was just trying to conserve some tires at the start and hope I could stick with the boys in front of me just a little bit to hopefully get there at the end again.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like it was an interesting one. You kind of tried to go with the same philosophy, I think, of keeping your powder dry, but it looked like it wasn't quite as easy to just keep yourself clean because you had your own wrestling match with your own car. You had cars that you were able to catch up and cars you had to make sure you kept behind you. I mean, you literally had an incredibly busy race from the outside.
Yeah, it was quite busy. You know, I wasn't too worried about the guys in front because Mills and Aaron, they're really strong guys to race against anytime, and especially on road courses. So I wasn't too worried about them. I was just trying to not fall too far behind. It was just more or less managing the gap behind me.
Well, you certainly managed that well. I guess the only frustrating thing for you, I'd imagine, was that by the time yourself got there, Aaron had kind of scampered off into the distance, hadn't he?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end, I think I was kind of catching him. I don't know. I was trying to keep it on the road at the end, but I saw Connor make a mistake in front of me, and I was like, I got to have him now or I'll never be able to get there again. So I'm still stoked with my first and second.
I mean, absolutely brilliant, isn't it? I mean, it's and I don't know for definite, but no, I'm not even going to venture a complete guess, but I'm pretty certain you've done yourself some pretty decent favours on the championship. You arrived joint third with Guillaume Hesno on 194 points. Aaron Smith was on 220. I would hazard a guess that you've jumped up above both of those now. Absolutely fantastic job on the championship standings, and of course, you get the Brian Crowles, ladies and gentlemen, is the winner of the Doble Bounty. You are the bounty winner, and Alex has just told me that you get the extra bonus for beating the pro too.
Wow.
Because you finished level with Alex Sedgwick, and that as far as they're concerned, that gives you that one as well. So you've managed to get the double bubble there of the Doble Bounty. Double bubble Doble Bounty. There you go. Say that quickly. That's. I mean, you said the stars have aligned. They really have there, haven't they? You should have stars on your car. Oh wait, you do.
Yeah, I mean it's the eagle in the American flag giving me that extra horsepower, you know.
Absolutely. Just watching a great slow-mo replay of your car there, just sort of like scraping along the wall ever so slightly. I mean, it really was tight margins on some of these corners, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm completely with what Aaron said a minute ago that Zolder is much more friendly to these cars than it is here. It feels smaller on the inside when you're driving it. It feels like you're on a really small track, but it's obviously not really. But it's just managing getting out of those really slow corners in first gear to not spin off the tires too much or they ruin your entire lap.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a lot of people doing that. I said there was one of two ways you were going, struggling to get it stopped or struggling to control the power on the exit. And I called it, it just looked like a ballet of NASCARs, basically, coming, or stock cars, should I say, all the way around this circuit. But you did it. A fantastic night, a victory at Daytona, a second place at the Gilles Villeneuve circuit here, and winning, of course, the Doble Bounty and the double bubble with the beating the pro. What an incredible night. Who do you want? Any last words?
Yeah, I want to thank Alex and all of them for putting this together and making such decent live streams and all that. Decent, I meant nice. What am I doing? I'm still not even calmed down about this.
Yeah, I can understand that.
No, I want to thank all of them and then Brex Racing for letting me run them. And then Jason and Ivan, Jason, my teammate, he had a bit of an unlucky day, sadly for him, but he had really good pace, so I suspect he's going to come up at some point. He's going to win at some point. Ivan, my spotter, for always being there. And the fans that always join these live streams. It still boggles my mind. There's so many of them.
It's brilliant. One thing I do just want to quickly ask about, you and I will have actually crossed paths because I normally am the lead commentator at the American Speedfest at Brands Hatch. Obviously you're normally, the phrase I use, you're on the spanners for Brex Racing.
Yes.
You're in the wrong job, surely, judging from this. You need to be the man behind the wheel, don't you? Have you done much behind the wheel for real?
I've been doing some autocross racing, which is basically in a dirt field. I'm doing some track day stuff right now, trying to get up there and working on a plan to hopefully get into a real car and do some racing.
Fantastic. Any idea what and where, maybe? Or not yet?
Not yet, no. Nothing concrete.
That sounded like I nearly dragged too much information out of you there, so I'll stop it at that one, and I look forward to hopefully I'll get the chance to commentate on you as well. Hopefully we'll get back to Brands Hatch soon as well and do the American Speedfest. But anyway, listen, final note there, fantastic job. Well done, Brian Krause. It's been all about you tonight. Well done, mate.
Thank you very much.
So there we go. That was second place for this race. Winner of the first race over at Daytona, Brian Krause. Plus, as you heard, he won the Doble Bounty, and he got the extra bit bonus for beating the pro in Alex Sedgwick. An absolutely fantastic evening. I think that's just about done it. We've emptied out the interview room. Thank you all so much for watching. Apologies that we had the technical issues. I hope that we managed to sort of bring you the important part of the race, pick this up by the scruff of its neck and run with it solo. So thank you for bearing with me on that one. Thank you to Mike Yao behind the scenes that got this up and running. Awesome job. And bless him, Chaz will be beside himself, and it was out of his control. I think it's the heat playing Mary Hell with some issues. But we'll be back bigger, braver, stronger. And it's Watkins Glen, round number 8 next week. So we'll see you next Wednesday evening, 7:45 again. From us here at the Vertex Stock Car Challenge. Have a very good evening.